Yo. So, hey, were any of you guys like at a school back when they still like spanked kids? Was that like something that any of y'all experienced?
Nah, man,
KD, you
I'm from
did?
California,
Yo,
bro.
Fabian,
You go to jail for
everyone
that.
except for
Bro,
Chris.
you
It was
know
no
about the green
story.
machine, bro. Hey,
Man, I was homeschooled. We got spanked every day.
yeah,
Bro,
you
I
Oh,
watched
that
a kid who
explains.
was bullying me get a spanking. That was the closest to God's judgment I had ever experienced at that time.
So okay, so Joe was homeschooled, so that makes more sense. But not okay. Katie, were you public school, and Zero, were you public school, and they still spanked?
I was public school. Yeah.
green
Yeah,
machine,
me too.
bro,
You
like
got
real.
so I've got a story, man, from like first grade. I got a spanking at school, right? And like they didn't like call your parents and be like, hey, we're gonna do that. They just spanked you, then called your parents afterwards, right? And so like I
Yeah, it was
went
just
in and
understood.
right, I went in and you stand at the front of the principal's desk. On the back side of it, he had a poster of a bulldog, like on the side, like down the side, and he'd be like, bend over to the desk and kiss the bulldog, and then he'd give you a smack, And so here's it was my only time I got a spanking by someone that wasn't my parent. I mean, technically, I guess you could say it was the first kiss I ever had by someone that wasn't a family
Dude.
member,
All in the
right?
same day. That's a big
I
day
know.
for you.
Well, no, it doesn't end there, Zero. It does not end there. So like I got home, and afterwards they called my mom and said what happened, right? And so I get home and my mom is sitting at the kitchen table and she's like, come here. And so I walk over there and she's like, give me your shoe. I'm like, what? So I give her my shoe and she's like, turn around. And then I got spanked with my own shoe after I got home.
Yo,
too,
that's some
Bro, I
what
didn't
was
know
that?
your mom was Mexican.
What was that show where Scared Straight? That's some Scared Straight tactics, bro.
Right?
Now with
Hosted by
that real
Geraldo.
pass was scared straight, yo. That's crazy.
Oh,
That's a throwback.
For real. Hey, that's vintage.
Good
You are a
times.
part of an elite club.
well, kids today, man, they just won't know. You know what I'm
They
saying?
don't
Hey,
know, have no idea.
They just
speaking
won't know.
of shoes, remember Eddie Murphy tell that story about his mom? He's like, you don't even have to be doing nothing. You would just think she hear you. Just what was it? She take her shoe off, hit you in the head, come back. Okay, let's go.
Oh man, welcome to another episode of 520 iXc. Here we are, fellas. Y'all looking glorious, man. Definitely got to give a shout out to Nectar Distro for sponsoring this episode. Again, man, if you guys are looking for music distribution, get out on all the major platforms. Nectar Distro's got you covered. Check them out, 520collect.com/nectar to get signed up now, man. So make sure you do that. But yeah, let's holler at the guys. Let's see who all we have in here this evening with us, starting off with my man KD.
Remember how like the little fake sitcom shows used to come on, man, and people was faking like they didn't know the camera was looking, and then when they pop up, hello, hi audience, I didn't notice you there. What's good, guys? It's another Monday night, and just blessed to be able to hang out with the fellas, man, and have some good dialogue, some good conversation, man. And we pray that it's definitely something that'll be a blessing to you guys. So good to have y'all on tonight, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Zero.
Live from North Central Arkansas, where it is snowing again. Dude, the weather is here so schizophrenic, but that's all right. That's all right. Zero for Hire. You can follow me on Twitter and on Substack. And to all of those who have not gotten any sort of the bat signal, I got the first page of my comic book that I'm working on, and I told you guys I was making a comic book this year. I'm not the artist, but the art is in. It's amazing, and I want you to see it. Come on over to my Substack page and check it out.
Dope.
That's what's up, man. And our guy Swiss is back. What's good?
Not much good. I've been sick all weekend.
Dang, like that? Not much.
So we had Andy Mineo come to my church that I work at Friday night, and I was super stoked to go meet him. and I get home from work and I had 102-degree fever, and I was so frustrated. And I woke up Saturday with 104-degree fever. Today I don't have a fever, which is great, but I still stayed home from work. But I need to do something other than lay in bed tonight. So I was like, I'm getting on. My wife's like, it's not a good idea. I'm like, I'm just going to sit and talk with my friends. So I'm excited to talk with my friends.
Well, and at least I don't think we could get like a virus.
Yeah, if you could put a mask on or something, I'd be a lot more comfortable.
I'm not sure how computer viruses work exactly, but
safe and effective.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good for an hour.
And you know what they say, man? One game is a win, 2 games is back to back, 3 makes a streak. So 3 weeks in a row, our guy Joe Fay in the house. What's up?
Chill.
Let's go. Hailing from North Carolina. I think I'm the only representative East Coast here, so I'm going to try not to let all you East Coast people down.
Love it, man. Love it. Of course, I'm Eric Boston. You can hit me up on X at Eric Boston 3. Make sure you do that, man. We'd appreciate it. And you guys already know what's going on, man. We are on the road. We're campaigning for 500 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, share, all that stuff, comment. Let us know where you're watching from. You heard where most of us are, I guess. I guess I didn't share. I'm in Missouri. I'm a little up north from Zero, but let us know where you're watching from, man. We'd love to know. What am I missing? Oh, yeah. And if you're on X, go ahead and it's not retweets now. What is it called now? Quote?
Repost or something like that.
I don't know. Dude,
Yeah,
this thing,
quote.
Really
man,
want them on X, though.
it makes no sense what's
Yeah,
happening.
we post notes
but
on X now.
right? But let's get into it, man. There's stuff that's been happening around Christian culture in the past week. Let me get this up. We're gonna start with this mom, 35-year-old mom, Michelle Klein, who her and her husband have an
Name dropping.
Well, it's in the article, so you can read it. I mean, it's right there under the picture. So
I know. I'm feeling loopy from all the medication.
It's gonna be
I'm not
hard.
even gonna lie.
Get the lead out so we can clown.
There's X right now, man. We gotta take it.
Get the lead out so we can clown because it's
right. Well, so their children attend a private Christian school, Liberty Christian Prep in Florida. But they have an OnlyFans account, and not only that, but they promote it on their vehicle, dropping their kids off and picking them up from school. And yeah, the school kind of got tired of it. The parents of the other children kind of got tired of it, and they have been banned from dropping their children off, at least on the school premises. They were like, hey, if you're going to drop them off, do it across the street or something, because we don't need that smut on our property.
It's a good word, smut.
Right?
You should use that word more often.
I did that just for
I'm
you.
actually in a Telegram channel called Smut, and it wasn't
Really?
intentional. It was just the first letter of the last name of everyone in the channel, and it just happened to spell smut.
That doesn't sound like an accident, Zero.
And then I was like, yo, we should probably make this a private channel. And then like some random person popped in, they're like, hey, I'm here for the smut. Oh god.
Yeah, see, that sound like I've been to a couple of Diddy parties. That's exactly what that sounds like.
Yeah, we're gonna change it to Tums.
But
Live
I don't know,
anagrams. That's
man,
what you're doing in for.
like this feels very much like another situation of like read the room, right? I mean, you're gonna put your kids into a Christian school. Yeah, they're probably not gonna want you promoting your porn.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
be
gonna
real.
mean.
Look at
Sorry, YouTube algorithm. I said corn. I did not say the
Corn.
other thing.
when we were demonetized. Thanks.
This chick looked like she clearly walked off like a trad wife like scene. Like
TikTok
look at
channel.
her. Like yeah.
I love how they selectively edited out the slash, what the lady's name is, because she's got the whole link on her decal.
Yeah, they
Just
did a good job of
selectively
hiding
cropped
that.
that out.
Listen, that's
Oh,
the
it's not
posting stuff like
hidden out of the article though. Right there.
Way to go.
Y'all really
Christian
want to look?
Post.
It's Piper Fawn. I don't recommend you.
Jeez,
looking, but
guys,
if
you
want-
cropped it out in the picture and then you just put it in the article. Get on the same page, yo. Get a copy editor. Go ahead.
But so her comments are that I don't think it's right by asking me to drop my kids off across the street and not be on premises with this on my vehicle, because people are going to be offended by all sorts of things. That was kind of
she's not gonna be able to promote her OnlyFans.
Let me ask you a question.
She was
if it was a dude, would the same rules apply?
Yes.
Oh, that dude would probably be locked up.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. If that was a
that's
dude,
why I was confused. Yeah.
Like no one would
don't
make
even
a
get
fuss
a warning.
about
We
this.
just get straight elbow drop from the clouds by some random dude, and he's like, "You doing this in front of kids?" Like, people are brutal with men. She gets publicity for her OnlyFans account.
Basically,
but they did talk about how there was students who was accessing the account, and a student actually got expelled
for looking her
on the internet. It's
man,
they can just go look it up.
That's
I'm surprised you don't
crazy
have a QR
jurisdiction.
code.
Ricky, I saw your mom.
You can't make me laugh that hard. My chest hurts.
My bad.
Bullying each other, and this is just like fuel for
even
fire.
Even worse than the decal on the back of her window is she wore a shirt for the news interview.
Same thing. Like she's totally monetizing every chance she gets. She a
businesswoman.
She a
businesswoman.
Yo,
yeah, she is.
Lady, get a QR code. Just that's
no
what,
such
that's
thing
the,
as
that's
bad
the
press.
I shouldn't be telling you how to do.
But that's the problem when you cover something like this. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who are in the comments have probably gone to her website like, yo, let me see what all the fuss is about. Oh, that's what the fuss is about.
Hey, you're going to be like Lecrae, get something seared into your mind.
Listen, the hot and heavy at 12:30 before the 1 o'clock call time. Like,
only Saints.
Don't show up to campus before 8 a.m.
No, she's completely she's completely unaware. Like,
I don't know if she's
self-awareness is like based on what the article and how it frames her. Her self-awareness is in the trash.
I'm completely on the opposite. She's I don't know if she's dark triad, but she's definitely narcissistic sociopath. Like she just had that dead look in her eyes during the interview. Like she don't care.
What's wrong with me doing porn? It's just me and my.
Like, well, this is how I
enroll your kids in a private Christian school. At some point, you didn't think, maybe this is going to cause a conflict.
I think maybe she thought it was a libertarian school because of the name. And anything goes with them. It's Christian liberty. She was focusing on the liberty. This is why I'm not a libertarian.
But you know what's crazy though? You'll have a ton of dope dealers, all kind of who don't want their kids to grow up in like some of the similar settings and surroundings that they did. So they'll try to make sure that they afford them a better education. Hey, I'm going to take you out the neighborhood now. Mind you, I don't know what neighborhood she's from. We're talking about like Bel Air or something like that. I don't know what neighborhood she's from, but
she said she's pulling down $20K a month from
bro. But wait, it's not.
They ain't on the east side.
Family. What she says is it provides a comfortable lifestyle for us, quote unquote. That is
so that she could pay for that tuition, bro. I bet that tuition's $20K.
I want to know how comfortable her kids actually feel, because
I can imagine her being very comfortable, like doing the job. Like most women seem to be uncomfortable with what she's putting out there.
Well, she said that before they started the account, that this was something that her and her husband did just on their own.
But don't nobody like keep it in the bedroom at the crib.
It's like a rinse and repeat of the same one with the senator or congresswoman or something.
I don't know.
It was a congresswoman. Same exact story. There was a congresswoman. This is the exact one, not dropping her kids off at school, but it's the blatant advertising that's really the outrage. And then, the outrage that you can't really see here on the screen, but you have to take my word for it, is in that video from the news report. She's not parked in between the lines at all. Like I'm telling you, she just don't care. She don't care.
Zero's bothered by the way she parks in the empty parking lot.
I am bothered. You advertising to kids. You got your MySpace on your belt, and you
Well,
just
so I mean,
taking up two parking spots.
I mean, obviously, other parents were complaining and bringing up this issue, and the school tried to give them an easy out. They're like, "Hey, just drive a different vehicle or take the decal off or whatever, and we'll be fine." And they were
did
like,
offer a
"Nah,
redemption.
it's cool." And she went as far to say that, that she felt like her and her husband are teaching their kids a good lesson by not backing down.
Which again, that's the self-awareness part to me. You offended other people, and you don't have any remorse. You don't feel any type of way. Clearly, her and her husband are not Christians. They just used the school. But you don't have any remorse. Like, you don't feel any type of way. You got kids at the school Googling you and going to the site and checking out your movies.
Bro, she gets paid for that though.
Look, I mean, it's all like, I don't care as long as the bread.
She's not wrong that she is teaching them how to not back down. Like, they're gonna complete the dark triad.
Basically, that's a horrible example. Like, I don't even know how you can feel as though you well, no, I'm teaching my kids just to stand up for yourselves, Bobby. And
my kids will be
this
better
is how you
criminals
do it.
than I am.
Stand up
Just
by laying
watch.
down. Stop playing, man. I don't get it. No, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, the only thing on her mind is that 20K, and she wants to turn it into a 21K. That's the only thing that's on her mind.
Facts.
And it's obvious. Like, the more articles people write about her, the more trouble she gets into. It's just more views for her. So it's like, at a certain point, you sell your soul for dollars, and that's obviously that. I mean, that's plain and simple. I don't think someone like this is that complex. It's just one simple thing: dollar signs. That's all that matters to her.
Once you find out,
they said they were going to homeschool.
Doing it, man. Listen,
right? They said they thought
the kids will learn all about entrepreneurship, marketing.
They said they've been thinking about homeschooling or an alternative educational option for a little bit. And this
apparently they haven't been thinking hard enough.
Listen, that's going to take away from business time.
Well, they're waiting for California to pass legislation so they can have the kids on OnlyFans too. And then
hold on, we either got to teach the kids or we got to make this bread. Which one is it? We look.
That's true. They gotta like move out to California, because I feel like in California they could get away with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Anthony Weiner will push something through for them. Give him a little bit.
I don't know. I feel like those kids are probably
all types
stay in a public school at this point. Like, they're probably the only ones in this country. Like, no, I don't want to be home. Y'all working. I'm trying to be.
Y'all overworking me at home. I don't want my own channel.
I can't concentrate. I hate you guys. I hate it here.
So, but apparently, in a new report that Zero actually shared with us right before we went live, I guess the school ended up expelling their kids over this whole situation, and cited the school's code of conduct. I'm not sure how I feel about that, though. Like, is it fair to expel the children for the actions?
That's going to be a lawsuit.
Okay, no, it's not fair, but the world's not fair. Get over it.
I agree, but it's still going to be a lawsuit.
And I agree. And they're probably going to try to go for it. But
I am 100% with them expelling the kids.
If they never warned them, if they never said, hey, I'm going to pull you to the side, listen, based on XYZ, something that you signed and agreed to.
Yep.
When you decide our terms of service, whatever it is, you want your kids here, this is the standard. You got to agree to it. Okay, cool, no problem. Then, you left the camera on intentional by accident, whatever it is, and oops, upload. Oh, money coming in. Well, man, forget the kids. Maybe the school won't find out about it. Let's keep the checks flowing, and the school should be good. And then all of a sudden, you start getting emboldened, and you like, oh, my man, I'm going to start wearing my T-shirt outside. And the T-shirt didn't get rebuked. Oh, man, let me put this decal on the back of it. It's like wearing a neon sign. And let me put that up. And I'm going to start riding.
Seared conscience
pull
looks
up
like.
between the cones. And all right, Ricky. All right, Bobby, y'all get out. Go to school, class. And all the other moms in the background. Oh, my goodness. Before it was an issue, you signed up for this. So we've warned you. We had a conversation. Now you're still saying, well, I don't think it's fair that I have to drop Ricky and Bobby off across the street. Not only have you endangered your kids by hitting by traffic because you can't pull up closer to school, but now you have set them at risk. Now you took a stand that jeopardized your children. And you don't realize that, but that's exactly what you did.
Well, that was the other thing, is she wanted somebody to bring the kids out to the car. Like, why she can't just get out the car and do it herself? Like, there's so much wrong with the story.
I don't think that's the school is asking her to drop them off.
Your fate.
I don't know what he's saying.
Eric, you're
but
fading out real bad.
Either.
We're losing to
hear-
Eric again. No,
Starlink down.
Starlink is down.
Can you hear me now?
I'm sure what
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
gonna say was gonna be amazing.
No, all I was saying was like with the school requesting that she drop them off across the street. I think it's a fair request that she says, fine, but you're gonna have someone walk the kids out to my car.
No, she can just go
Nope.
get them. Her arms
They
ain't
got to
breaking.
play in
ain't broken.
traffic. They got to play
No,
in
she
traffic.
brought herself into the situation. She can get herself
She can get
out.
more
She was
advertising on their
something to-
T-shirt in the highway.
to comply with their request. She's
Listen.
not. I think that's fair, and also the whole lawsuit thing. I don't think there is a way for them to. They could have a lawsuit, but I don't think it goes anywhere because you're not talking about a public school. You're talking about a private school.
Yeah, it's not the government. This is private.
Because it's a
They don't-
Oh, yeah,
Christian
this is
school,
Florida
though.
we're talking about
Somebody is-
too. I don't think a lawsuit like that would go anywhere in Florida.
Well, it wouldn't go anywhere because I mean, private school. It's not a. We they can decide who's in and who's out at any time in those
Mhm.
situations.
And I anticipated a little bit of conversation on the kicking her out thing. Do we have a way to put up 1 Corinthians 5:5 on the screen?
Why don't you just read it, Zero? Quit being lazy.
Why don't you have it memorized?
I hate
bro?
reading out loud. You all remember public school? Come on. It says, "You are to deliver this man to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, so that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord." And this is the story of the man that was having an affair with his mom or
His father's wife.
mother-in-law. Yeah, his father's wife. And Paul said, "Put him out. Put him out. And let Satan tear him up for a little bit. So, and then give him a path of redemption back," which the school did. But she don't want to take that. So put him. They're being 100% biblical on this.
So tie that to Romans 1 then, where Paul talks about not only them that do, but those that take pleasure in those that do. The longer that you let her and her money stay there, you set a poor precedent for the rest of the kids who are in the school, right? So you're willing to compromise your code of ethics, your code of conduct for this bread, for this paper, and it makes you just as bad as her. So not only you're in league with her now, the longer that you let them stay, the more you've compromised yourself. And so now this school where these kids are supposed to be protected is not a safe space anymore because mom's got an OnlyFans account.
Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them.
Prove them. That's what Lucretia did last week. Sorry to go backwards.
And then Proverbs 24:1, "Do not be envious of evil people and do not try to make friends with them." And my dog's barking, so I got to mute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That dog was just barking in agreement, man.
He was saying amen.
The one thing that I was, thinking about was like, man, would there have been a way, for the school to use this in a way to like help those kids out, though? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, they're not getting the morals at home.
Yeah, but that's not their kids.
You can't infringe right now. You
Can't
can't
save
infringe on the
everybody,
moral.
bro. That's not
It's
our
not
job to
that.
leave the 99 to go after the one. That's Jesus' job.
It's not even that, bro. I think that's a little extreme, man. But when you're talking about an institution versus a home, like there's only so much you can do. If the parent says that, well, if this is where you're drawing the line in the sand and I'm going to remove my kids from this situation, I don't want to have nothing to do with y'all, even though, again, it sounds like it was more the school's call than hers. But at that point, it's not like you can go in and try to pull them out. That's one of the bad parts about, taking somebody out of a bad environment. You feed them, you clean them up, you wash them, you pour stuff into them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, guess what? They got to go back to their bad environment. They go with clean clothes and teeth brushed and a good, meal on their stomach, but they're going back into that same dirt and filth that they live in. And that makes it difficult. And so, again, it's a tough call, bro. But when you're talking about parents' rights, there's only so much you could do.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about some other parenting stuff here in a moment. Let's see what we got here from Paul. I wonder how the kids were being treated at school for the decal. I'm pretty sure their classmates knew about. Oh yeah, their classmates knew about it. We said that at least one classmate was suspended for accessing it at school. So
why should the kids be suspended if that's their mama? You know what I'm saying? Like that only makes sense, honestly.
And just to clarify what I was getting at is for the school to try to go so hard after trying to save these kids. You separating the family, you opening up a whole nother can of worms. You have all these other kids that you're shepherding that you're supposed to be protecting from this woman and her destructive deeds. And that's why I say, like, you can't leave the 99 to go after the one. Like,
That's tough.
that's
Yeah,
the beautiful thing about Jesus is he can come after us, but we have responsibilities. I got to take care of my family and my kids, and I'll leave a path open for you.
I feel bad for those kids though, because they were getting some sort of biblical based education in that school, and now they're removed from that environment.
I get what you're saying, Eric.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that. It could. That's definitely like the roots of church hurt.
Oh,
like those kids will probably grow up being like, the church doesn't love me, because that's what the mom's gonna now tell the kids.
Right.
And it won't be the church's fault. It'll be the mom's fault for not loving her children.
Exactly, which is usually always the root cause of church hurt is forgetting that Christians still sin.
It's not even that.
But yeah, didn't sin in this situation.
You're right. I agree. I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you made a decision that affected and impacted, and it's going to resonate. Yeah.
I'm saying that as a generality.
I get you saying. Yeah. But that's tough.
We got any comments we need to address from the chat? No? Okay. Cool. Well, hey, make sure, if you guys haven't, especially those of you that are watching on YouTube right now, make sure you go and add our Fresh Picks playlist to your YouTube library, your YouTube music library. I think if you do it in one place, it'll do it in both for you. So it's pretty awesome. We just updated our playlist with a lot of new music over the past couple of days. So you got fresh new songs to check out, man. So make sure you do it. Go to FiveTwentyClef.com/fresh picks to get that put into your library, man. So, before this whole OnlyFans article came to our attention, there was another article, and we're like, well, okay, this over here that we just talked about, I guess is part of parenting. It's not quite the same, but let me pull this up here, man. The Gospel Coalition actually put up an article about, is gentle parenting biblical? And gentle parenting has definitely become a popular thing in American society. Good, bad, indifferent. I know Zero, and I know KD's got kids. Swiss, I know you don't. Joe, do you have any children running around out there that you know of?
You know of.
That I know of.
While you're out there, Joe,
the insinuation there. There are none that I know of and none that I don't know of.
His insurance takes care of that.
Eric tried to think about you up, bro. That was a nasty curveball.
I don't know. But I wanted to read this first paragraph here, man. So if gentle parenting is a term that you have not heard, maybe you'll kind of get understanding. It says, if you've paid attention to parents with young children in recent years, you may have observed something previous generations would have found deeply puzzling. A mom or dad crouching in front of a tantrum-throwing child, and while seeking eye contact and maintaining a friendly tone of voice, saying something like this: "You're feeling sad. You're feeling big feelings. It's okay to feel those things. I'm right here." Several minutes later, when you turn back down the same shopping aisle, the child is still furiously demanding cookies, and the crouching parent is still saying the same thing. So, Zero, I know that this was big for you, man. Where do you want to go with this?
Man. Well, first of all, I want to commend the Gospel Coalition for putting some good stuff out there, because they just stay in heat regularly, and they go good, they go bad. And this is definitely one of the good times that they're putting something out there. So big ups to Gospel Coalition for tackling this subject, because it's something that will likely get pushback. And I think that's actually how we found out about it, because Christian Post was writing about the pushback from this article. So I think maybe that's a good place to start from, is knowing that it's already seeped into Christian circles.
Right. Well,
I'm going to stay off of this segment real quick, just because I don't have kids. But I'm gonna leave this right here and go for Proverbs 22:6, man.
Well, don't feel like you got to have experience. Like, you should be gaining experience now. Like,
I don't. I'm just saying that as like a
Okay. I was scared for a minute.
Yeah, no, I definitely have opinions.
No,
man.
we get to hear him, bro. Like this deals more with just simply parenting. Um, it's unfortunate, but we have to, because I like how the article kind of digs into the backgrounds of all of this stuff and what it appears to be like on the surface. So even from a natural standpoint, not even digging into the supernatural standpoint, some of these fronts that people use to introduce this watered down, you know, societal, we're going to massage individuals into compliance, are backed by individuals who are using strategy from studies and all of this other, you know what I'm saying? So like what they're doing to you that seems unintentional and sincere is actually pointed, and it is very intentional to try to get you to a certain point and to a certain place. At the end of the day, my basis and my foundation has been for some years and is still now that whenever you start telling parents how to parent that does not line up with the word of God, you begin to, it's an attack on God. Let me just put it that way. Point
Yeah.
blank, bottom line, period. If I go out and I tell you, don't whoop your kids, the Bible says to whoop your kids. So who I'm gonna listen to? I'm gonna listen to you or I'm gonna listen to God. It doesn't say abuse your children. That's why one of the things that parents are told, and in particular fathers, do not, frustrate or don't get your kids to the point of wrath where they hate you, where they have an anger with you, because those daddy issues become God daddy issues. I hate
Yep.
my worldly father, my natural father, so I'm gonna take it out on God and I'm gonna have a problem with God. Don't provoke your kids to wrath. However, that Proverbs, the same Proverbs where Swiss posted that scripture, Proverbs also talk about, listen, beat your kid with the rod of correction. Of course, that's probably more like the urban natural version. You won't kill him. It is important to understand the place that discipline and structure have. And so now we got all of these, it's about relationship and not about religion, people who don't want rules and don't want structures. And so if we don't have discipline, we can't be disciples, people. And so again, from the home to the church to the school, and all in congruence with each other, the same lessons are supposed to be shared back and forth, right? That's ideal. That's the setup. That's the way that God would desire. Everything affirming and reaffirming each other, right? Everybody working in tandem. Eric, you asked earlier, how many guys went to, came up in schools where you got a whooping? I did. Because there was communication between the parent and the teacher of what was necessary to make sure that I got to where I needed to be as a child and growing through the stages of development. You don't grow up straight. Every plant that's going to produce the right type of fruit has a stick tied to it. Why? Because you need the structure. You need something to tell you, or you're leaning too far this way, let's come back so that we can do everything that we're supposed to do. When you don't have those things, you have the mass shootings like you do. You got kids going to, there's a story that I just read the other day about, it was Michigan, where the mother is being held accountable for the kid who took the gun to school. And you know what I'm saying? So they're holding her liable now. She's facing jail time because she's the parent. She didn't carry out the act. We're responsible. So if there's certain things I don't teach you early on, that means later in life, when there are other influences, it becomes more and more difficult to lay these foundations. And so again, if the world is telling you don't whoop your kids, there's a better way, there's a different way, kinder, gentler nation, all of that other stuff, it is an attack on God. And as a saint of God, you should feel a certain type of way about it.
I don't want to double back on anything you said. I'm trying to think. What didn't you cover just now?
It don't matter. I'm sorry, bro. Go.
You covered the whole topic.
I will say, like the author of this article, this Bernard Howard, he did bring up a good point though, that because I know Swiss had on the screen a second ago the whole sparing the rod, which is the verse that a lot of people go to. He does a good job of explaining that, hey, it doesn't always mean like a physical discipline, right? he talks about like the root words and everything from like going back into like the Hebrew and stuff. And you guys can read the article if you want to go through all that. But he talks about how it's like associating like a painful experience as part of that discipline.
Paideia is painful punishment.
Yeah, and he shares a story from his youth where he was acting a fool. They were on vacation or something like that, and his dad was like, "You don't get to swim today," and that was painful for him to the point where he's like, I still remember it to this day. Like not everything is I gotta, whip my kids.
Let me tell you something.
Like
whoopings help though.
Yeah,
knock out the kids.
I remember talking to somebody about not wanting to embarrass themselves or embarrass their kids, or they didn't want to be embarrassed or something. I know this embarrassment is tied to this, but I was telling that person, you have no idea the amount of approving nods you are going to get when you pick up your little screaming demon child and carry him out of the store and say, you know what, we're going home. We're going home because you want to act up. And you pick them up and they're screaming and you drag them right out of the grocery store and everybody's going to look at you like that one that, yeah, good job, guy. Like, because that's what people want to see. We don't want to be held hostage by your child. Like we're held hostage by that crap. Like it's a societal problem, man.
Witchcraft that you let your kids engage in early on. If they feel as though they can manipulate you, they can act a fool, and you're going to shrink and not be the parent, but be the buddy. Like there's so much that we have to understand about where we're trying to go. And at the end of the day, remember, parents are stewards, right? Kids don't belong to us. So when you christen your kid and you have your kid blessed, what are you doing? You're giving your child back to the Lord, right? You're saying that, hey, as your parent, I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to put you in a position to do what it is that God created you to do. You're not mine. I am just simply responsible for you. With that being said, I don't answer to society. I don't answer to their schools. I answer to God first and foremost. My responsibility is to make sure that the structure that they receive is the best possible to put them in a position to have a relationship with God, to desire a relationship with God, to understand what having a relationship with God looks like, and the things that are tied to and attached and associated with that. That's my responsibility. I cannot shrink. I can't be concerned about you liking me. I need to make sure that I live a life that's respectful. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind. You want to get to the point into the place where you can have conversations with your kids so that they understand what's going on. I grew up in the because I said so generation. Why I got to do? Because I told you, because I said so. No explanation. I don't mind. I understand the importance of explaining to my kids why something, but that doesn't remove the fact that there has to be consequence for action. If I don't, what does the scripture say? God chastens those that he loves. If you are without chastening, then you're a bastard. You're a child without a father. If I don't love you, then I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you do whatever it is that you want to do. But if I love you, I'm going to correct you. And sometimes that correction does not feel good, but it is absolutely necessary.
That's why the shepherd has the rod and the staff. One is for guiding and one is for
whooping.
So there was one thing you said that I want to hone in on a little bit. Manipulation is the weapon of the child. And the Bible says that foolishness is bound up in the heart of the child. And the article talks about this in depth, that it's a parent's job to drive that foolishness out of him.
Ooh.
A child knows that he's not stronger than you. He knows that he can't escape. He doesn't know anybody else out there. So his job is to manipulate you to give him what he wants or to give her what she wants. And that's why they bring you the cookie and say, I brought you the cookie. They're trying to manipulate you into giving them a cookie. And you go, oh, that's so sweet. You're so smart. You got it down all by yourself. I'm going to give you a cookie. Yeah, you a fool. You just got manipulated by a 3-year-old. You're showing that you're not smarter than a 3-year-old. You're no wiser. And it's not an enemy situation. It's you have to establish leadership and you have to establish security for that child in order for that child to have a stable reality. Or you're going to have a kid who thinks he's a griffin or some weird crap. He thinks Power Rangers off the dresser. And that's why stuff like that happens, because they think they can, one, do it, And even if you don't find out, they think they can do it. They have no framework for reality. Second, there's no consequence. So you got the bonfire going, and the kid keeps going over there and throwing stuff in the fire. Oh, look, I'm dangling. You keep telling him to stop. And he knows he don't have to listen to you. You ain't going to do nothing.
It's all talk. Yep.
The best illustration that me and my wife got before we got married is the child is under the table to pick his toy up. And he picks the toy up, and he stands up, and he hits his head on the table. And he looks, and he's like, ow. And he picks the toy up because that's what he wants. And he stands up and he hits his head on the table again. And he yells up at the table. Ah! So he picks the toy up. He stands up and the table's not going to move, dog. Like, you understand? Like, this is reality. Your parenting style has to be like that table. So whether I don't want to ultimately criticize the like gentleness of the gentle parenting, but I do want to get to that manipulation part. Like, if you're letting your kids manipulate you, you've already lost. That's their weapon.
Yep.
And that's where I think we need to talk about there's two very specific concepts that Howard mentions in this article that he views as unbiblical. And the first goes along with what you're saying here. He talks about bad behavior being caused by external factors. And when you buy into that, it doesn't grasp the sinful nature of sin itself. But then you also are facing this battle between your optimism and the reality of the situations, which I think is what kind of Zero is getting at there. Like we can't just and the second one is that we can't just use rewards and punishments to try to modify on the surface level, to modify that surface behavior, because the kids really don't know how to do that, right? Like when we don't use punishments, right? He talks about it being vital in shepherding, as like what Swiss was saying earlier too. So those are the two main areas that he says that this idea, this way of thinking, goes against those biblical principles. And I mean, something to think about too is like, where did this idea of gentle parenting originate? And he talked about how Instagram influencers, podcasts, blogs, TikTok, like it really took off in those places first. And I mean, at the end of the day, we got to be cautious of
it's
stuff.
A reinvention. It's a reinvention of the self-esteem movement from the 80s. If you guys remember that, they felt like if we had better self-esteem, then we would be better people. And what we ended up being was better criminals. And now we have prisons full of people with extremely high self-esteem. And they think they're the greatest. Just ask them.
That's true. Nope, I agree 1,000%. And things really changed when households, by and large, started adopting this policy where kids could snitch on their parents. So when you got kids confident enough to pick up the phone and dial 911 because they got a whooping, or you done took little Johnny racetrack and tried to beat Johnny with the racetrack, and you feel confident enough to call DCFS on your parents and tell them, hey, I don't like it here. When kids start talking about, yo, I want to be emancipated. You ain't finna be emancipated and live under my roof.
Spell emancipated.
What is happening right now? Like when we taught kids that it was okay to be, and this is one of the problems that I have when you start talking about like some of the things we've talked about before, where you've got guidance counselors in schools who are encouraging kids to be who you identify as, and they're giving girls chest binders because the girl tells them that I feel like I'm Bobby today. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have, and they're not communicating, they're not looping parents into what's happening. They're simply pouring into the kids what it is that they believe. When you have these different types of dynamics where, again, so if we're talking about, we're all good on the inside, which is one of the ladies in the article, she said, I believe that we're all good on the inside. And it's just, the other things that are outside, like when you start blaming things externally and you never understand the importance of self-examination, then that in and of itself is problematic. It's not always everybody else's fault. But these are the people who get passed along, and these are the people who kind of go from situation to situation and who are never held accountable. So these are people who get crutches, but don't understand that they're their own worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. This is what we're developing. People who refuse to be held accountable. We're developing folks who are rebellious. We're developing people who ultimately become reprobate in the faith because one of the
It's
people
almost
that
like there's a Bible scripture about that.
absolutely, but one of the things, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna move on because I know there's some other things we need to address. One of the people that God has the most difficult time in dealing with is somebody who's spoiled. Somebody who's used to getting their way all the time, right? And if I
Rich
don't
young
call
ruler.
gonna listen,
Kanye.
God has a difficult time dealing with sport, and not that it's difficult for God, but it's difficult for them. Because when God is trying to teach them, hey, it's time to change, it's time to let go of all of these things, there's so much that they like about themselves that even God now is fallible to them because God is asking me to give up something that is important to me. I've made an idol out of me. So you're talking about T.O. walking around with T-shirts and say, I love me some me. This is their mindset. I love me. And now God is telling me that in order for me to be who he called me to be, I got to let go of me. Me is the only thing that has protected me and kept me all these years, building these bridges and creating these walls and making sure that I burnt the bridge when it was necessary and creating boundaries and telling people no if they wasn't aligned with what I was saying because my viewpoint and my standard is the only thing that exists and it's the only thing that matters. We're creating people who do not play well with others. And so now when you talk about coming into a situation where you have to change, if you are going to benefit from what that situation provides you, i.e. salvation, then it becomes very difficult for these individuals to want to do and want to be who it is that God has called them to.
Damn,
Swiss,
Katie, did you have that pre-written?
Sorry, bro.
No, he's just full of wisdom, bro.
Dang, dude, that was like you just like
That's what all them little butt whoopings would get you. All them butt whoop, a
Hey,
slap
bro,
behind.
look,
I'm
you ain't had a
impressed.
whooping until you got naked
I'm
and got
impressed.
whooped in the tub, bro. Like,
I think the
I've had-
Lord's trying to teach you though to switch out that fire alarm battery.
hey, bro, don't listen to my background, man. Let me mute, man. Stop playing.
The beat
Hey, and
rated
I feel
R.
like I gotta set something right here.
Mhm.
Katie, I gotta apologize to you. I'm sorry I didn't open up the show by congratulating and saying happy Kanye release day to you and all you people in Chicago. I know y'all are probably after celebrating. You got yourself a new Jesus, according
Good,
to Ye.
bro.
So.
I don't listen to him, a Ty Dolla $ign. I don't know what. I only just saw that the project dropped, bro. But nah, I'm good.
What was the dude that he hanging out with? Playboy Cardi. It's like, so we don't even have names no more. We just point at 2 words and that's our name now.
Yeah. Well, hey, I wanted to address B Plus's comment. That's why I've been leaving it up here.
Yeah.
Like he says, my personal opinion is that the previous generation may have been a little heavy-handed, and now the next generation is overcorrecting. I do think that could be quite anecdotal because my parents were definitely the gentle, go ahead and sin. You want to have sex with your girlfriend? Let's go buy you condoms. Like while we were going to church, like,
Wow.
you know, that's my California experience in like the liberal, like progressive area where like, that's what I grew up in, where that then fostered this, oh, my parents are saying that this is okay. The Bible tells me to obey my parents, but it created so much confusion in me for decades. Like,
Well,
and I'm like, I grieve for that because it ended up really damaging me in my 30s.
Hmm.
well,
Well,
and
it's
can't make-
also
go ahead, Joe. I'll follow up after you.
it is definitely interesting how you see like differing views that kind of split along ideologies. It's almost like I can't say there's a direct correlation with people's stance on this issue between right and left, because I don't think that's a completely accurate assessment, but I think it's partially accurate because you just have 2 different worldviews, and the one worldview is that people are inherently good, and it's your responsibility as a parent to cultivate and develop that goodness and protect it. And then there's the other ideology, which is typically more conservative. It's more biblically based, which is that your child is a rapscallion and he's just full of wickedness, and it's your job to beat that out of them. And so you just, depending on your ideology, is going to completely affect your approach. If you believe that your child is inherently good, then you're 100% going to have more of a gentle approach, because you don't want to scare the child. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to scar them. You don't want to do any of that. You want to take care of them. You want to cultivate, which there is a room for that, but that's not biblical. And normally, like in my experience, I definitely grew up in a household where there were plenty of whoopings to go around. I felt like I got whooped enough to make up for numerous people, honestly. But usually the rule of thumb is that you get whipped a couple times, and if you have a brain in your head that's still firing with all pistons, you start figuring out, like, if I do this, I'm going to get whooped, so maybe I shouldn't do this. And usually you start to learn, like, here are the rules, and if I don't want to get whooped, then I abide by the rules. And that is something that is highly relative to just how the world works. In the real world, you do something stupid, there are consequences. And so I think that the house is meant to kind of be a gentle playground to cultivate almost what the real world is like. There are consequences. It's just they're not going to be as severe as if you do something stupid in the real world. As my pastor says, he says something really good related to this. He says, every kid needs to know the answer to two questions. And those two questions are, who loves me and who's in charge? And if you as a parent can effectively answer both of those questions, then you're doing a good job. Like, I don't have any personal experience, because responding to Eric's first question, I definitely don't have any kids I know of or that I don't know of.
We'll
but
find
I don't have any personal experience on this.
Can
but
you
that's
prove
my
the
little bit of
ones that you
wisdom.
don't know of?
We'll find
That's a bunch of kids with beards and long hair that look like Joe, man, out there somewhere.
Just follow.
But no, I was gonna say, like, we gotta be careful though when we're making those kind of general big statements, because yes, there are some parents who have definitely taken it too far, right? They've abused their kids, but that does not apply to everyone who has spanked their kids as part of their discipline, right? And so we can't overlook the ones who have or make light of the ones who have used this in the correct way.
If you want to read a really good book about this, I'm actually reading this in seminary, and I had to read this exact book last year, and I have to read it for a class this year. It's called Christianity and Liberalism, and it was written in 1923 by J.G. Gresham, I think is how you pronounce his name. And the whole book is how, as the church walks away from the inerrancy of the Bible, we're going to see all these things change in our institutions. And one of those things is how we raise our children in the school system. And like, we're touching on all the things that we're seeing and what we're talking about here. This guy was saying 100 years ago, and I want to say World Magazine named it its book of the year last year for its 100-year anniversary. But I'm reading it again for another class, and it's just like, gosh, this guy, like, the first time I read it, I'm like, wow, this is really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, relevant to today. But now I'm reading it, I'm like, this guy was a prophet.
I have something that I want to, like, not be comical, but be very serious. And I got to be careful, because I don't want to treat it with kid gloves, and I don't want to overstate anything. But there's like a chain link of issues that I'm seeing. At the start is a lack of fatherlessness, or I mean a lack of fathers. There's a lot of fatherlessness. So maybe it's not so much that a generation was too heavy-handed, is that we're seeing more fatherlessness in our country and in our world.
Yep.
And we've really solidified a lot of legislation to ensure fatherlessness in the homes, resulting in the next issue of, this is a very feminine approach. This is not an inherently masculine approach at all. And I'm not trying to be sexist or misogynist.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why children need a mother and a father. My wife is as strict as my mom was, but they're both very gentle with the kids. And then I'm strict, but my default mode is fun dad. So my wife is generally strict. I'm generally fun, but then she has to be the comforter. I have to be silverback gorilla.
Yeah.
And we have to rely on each other for those roles. Otherwise, she just gets to be the comforter. And I think that when there's no balance in the marriage, there's no balance in the home, you're going to have an overabundance of a misguided compassion.
That's super wise.
And then the last link that goes along with that, which leads back to the beginning, unfortunately, is there is no fear of God. And we see this in the church and in the world. It's almost taboo to mention the fear of God. But it's supposed to be demonstrated in the way that I father my children. I fear God. My children should have a healthy fear of me. Not so my kids are going to be just as smart as I am. And my fear is that they're going to be getting into the same trouble. And unfortunately, they have to understand the reality and the stability of the world. And that also includes that you might run into dad in the shadows, like the Equalizer, a Batman or something at a party. Like, what are you doing here? You know, you're not supposed to be here. You know, like I'm going to do everything to keep my kids on the right path. But there has to be a fear of that. And in between those two, and this is a very fatherly anecdote, the kid's gonna touch that hot pot. I was actually cleaning a cast iron pot today, and I took it out of the oven and I put it up on the counter to cool, and I said, "Don't touch that, it's hot." Now there are numerous TikTok videos of women saying, "It's hot, don't touch it, it's hot." You don't need to do all that because I already told you it's hot. Go on to touch it if you want to, and my kids already know because they have all individually touched the hot pot. They touch. It hurt, didn't it? I told you not to touch it. Why did you touch? Because you don't want to listen to me. Maybe you listen to me. And
It's
then
an exercise in trust.
They learn that when dad uses the serious tone, it's a serious situation. I had to chase a big dog off of our property. I was scared out of my mind, but my kids knew I said, stay in the house, go over there. And I had to go chase that animal off. So there has to be that balance of fatherhood. Oh my goodness. I don't need to reiterate what I just said. I'm gonna leave it there. Tripping over myself.
Hit the nail on the head. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Well said.
Yep. Love it, man. Hey, and you know, I don't remember exactly what you're saying now, KD, because it's been a minute. But you mentioned salvation in your rant earlier. I just want to tell people we got a new episode of the podcast coming out on Thursday, and it is all about salvation.
Oh, we tried. I can't wait to hear the edit. He edited it to make it sound good because we was all over the place.
I'm just gonna say, I didn't talk very much, but if you want to get it delivered right to your inbox on Thursday when it drops, make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. You see it on the screen right now. Go to FiveTwentyClub.com/Substack to get signed up. And if you love what we're doing and you want to be involved, you want to help us be able to make improvements, take all this stuff a little bit further. When you sign up, choose to be a paid member, because that's going to help us do those things. If you're a paid member, you also become a producer of the show. So you get show credits, all that good stuff. So we would love for you to be able to do that if you so desire. So again, go to FiveTwentyCollective.com/Substack now to do that. Fellas, we got one more thing we need to talk about before we get out of here. Obviously, the Super Bowl yesterday led to new commercials. What
is this? There's a new bowl?
Yeah, it's the 8th bowl of the Revelation.
But you know, last year this organization He Gets Us kind of burst onto the scene with all these
yes
about Jesus. Well, they're back with a new one, and this one I'm gonna pull it up here and let it play. But this one is it's about feet washing. And it's just these still images of different individuals. Like here we got, you know, a cop washing. Well, it moved on too fast, but anyway, all these different still images of these people from seemingly different walks of life washing each other's feet. And I've already seen it start some controversy among different individuals, right? Like, I mean, what I saw was like I saw a YouTuber reacted to this. And he was like, "This is messed up," and blah blah blah. So I wanted to see what you guys thought about this, and what does
see the pictures
the Bible tell us about?
Wait, Zero, you haven't seen this yet,
bro? I didn't even watch the Super Bowl.
I was getting. You don't have to watch the Super Bowl. Did you go online today?
No.
My whole Twitter feed is people arguing about this.
Have you heard of the game Pal World? That's literally all I do.
Well, you need to not make that an idol. You need to make this an
Yeah.
idol.
We're gonna
Not
have to do it.
outraging me. I've been having fun building a base instead
I
of being
know. Hey,
outraged about
hey,
Mormon
We're gonna have to
commercials.
do an
I'm not
intervention for him,
hating.
but no, at the end though,
Here's
it talks
the thing,
about.
man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. The reaction is not warranted. It's just like I understand 100% the organization is sus. It's such a suspect organization. I wouldn't trust them.
It's Mormon, ain't it?
I don't know if they're Mormon, but people
Jesus-
on their
Jesus
board
Christ
are
of Latter-day
actually
Saints.
they have non-Christians on their board. Like people who do not hold that Jesus was the son
Oh,
of
they
God.
got the conservative girl washing the punk rock girl with
Yep,
the pink
yep.
hair.
They got all kinds of things. Here's the
Don't we
thing.
got a not
Is it
quite guilty?
hold on though. Hold on.
Go ahead. I'm gonna shut
Let
up.
me
I'm
ask
gonna-
the question for those who've seen it. Is it blasphemous?
Is it,
You would have to
no.
Then let the ad play and shut up, because until the evangelicals pull their resources together and throw some up there, shut up. But I'm
my
tired.
question is,
No, I'm not done. Listen,
okay.
this is the thing that pisses me off about conservative Christians, which I am of the flock, is they sit and complain about this. And if I'm like the progressive liberal who wants to gotcha the conservative Christians, I'm going to put an ad out like this and be like, yeah, see how the conservative Christians can't even take this non-heretical ad. They got to fight about that. Look how terrible they are. They got us like hook, line, and sinker to everyone. And I'm just like watching the comments like, dude, just let the ad run. Like if you want to do a different message, you pay for the ad. We have the resources. It's not like we don't have the resources in the Christian community, like the conservative Christian community, to go put up something that has got. Also, this isn't a systematic theology ad. It's a conversation starter. Like, sure, are the pictures a little like controversial? Absolutely. Are they very intentionally incendiary? Absolutely. I agree with though, but they're not blasphemous. And if it's that, I can't sit here and like point the finger. Now that one I have the biggest problem with that picture, but
which one?
The Planned Parenthood one with the
it's one of those things that's gonna troll conservatives, social conservatives.
Yep.
And it's gonna get like you're gonna have every freaking Daily Wire show if they didn't even do it today. Just and Mark Levin's gonna be screaming and just.
I watched 3 Daily Wire shows sick in bed this morning
because they don't preach Jesus.
Yeah, well, actually,
so I'm right there with you.
They had a very similar stance than I did. I was actually surprised. I was
good,
like, oh.
good, because we got to stop falling for this. The social conservative thing is like it's failing a lot of people. Not the ideology in itself, but this what they're doing with the reaction to everything and just being mad all the time. Like we gotta stop being mad all the time. Like, and I agree with you 100%. If you don't like it, then go do something. And that's the church's and the conservatives' biggest failure socially, because when you say social, like social issues in Christianity, it almost always is the left. It's always the left. The right is just like, leave me alone. I just want me and my family, and we gonna represent by showing you, and I'm taking care of my kids, and there's a place for that. But like, you can't also get on the internet and just rant and rave. And this is something that I'm trying to grow out of myself. So I appreciate that criticism 100%.
Yeah, it's just like such an easy tactic to get people to fall into this. And hey, like this is what I did when I watched it. I'm watching all these like kind of commentaries go back and forth, picking apart the organization. I'm like, okay, that's a fair criticism of the organization. But like, if you replace Jesus in every single one of the pictures, would it still work? And I had to say yes. And so
this
at that
is
point, I'm like,
the question I had, those Swiss. This is the question I had. The only thing, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that the idea is wrong, but whenever I think about the examples of feet washing in the Bible, and if we're going to put everything up against Scripture, does this line up with the examples that we had? Right? Because you see them washing the feet of some, on some of these, like you said,
the one with the bust.
The woman. Well,
yeah, the bust of Chicago.
It's so
Well,
much.
you got the woman washing the feet of the young lady who we assume just came out of the Planned Parenthood clinic. You got the priest washing the feet of the
The
man that
trans
obviously
person.
looks like he belongs to a certain community, right? Was that the type of people that Jesus was washing feet of? He washed the feet of his disciples.
He
then
washed
other people-
Judas's feet,
And then other people washed his feet.
knowing what Judas was going to do. He washed his feet.
But he
Yeah.
didn't do it as a social commentary either. And this is the thing I think that
Makes it even
does
makes it
upset a
even
lot
more
of people,
powerful.
is that it's a bastardization of what Jesus did. If you want to get at it, it's not blasphemous, but it is a bastardization of the message. If you take the two people out of the settings and you're not looking at what's going on in the background, then it's just one person serving another. But they're intentionally framing this in such a way to make a commentary about the situation.
Oh, 100%.
The people are in the center, and it's like they're intentionally centered. As a photographer, I'm looking at this so that you won't look at them. Really, you're looking at the rest of the picture. And they're doing that on purpose, and I think that's the part where I think it's just take any one of them and say remove them from the situation, and it's a person serving another, and they're saying you should just serve people instead of addressing any of the issues or instead of looking at the situation. And maybe there's a time and place for that anecdotally, but like it's a troll.
Yeah.
It's just
and then the Jesus didn't teach hate thing. That's not true. He did. He taught us to hate sin.
Yeah.
Luke 14, he's pretty clear on
that's
what hate looks like to follow him.
When we get past the images, man, we look at the wording at the end. You hit that on it. So let's see the next part. It says, hey, he didn't teach hate. Instead, he washed feet.
No, see, that's a bastardization of the message.
I'd say that's that connection. They're a little loose
simplification.
But then,
I think, it's really a simplification, because the whole essence of washing feet, you have to go back to the ancient, because this is a practice that's kind of lost its meaning in modern society. So the ancient practice of washing feet was usually something that the servant of a household would do. So you would have someone visiting a household, and the servant or a slave would wash somebody's feet, because that was the only person who was deemed fit to wash feet, was like the lowest person of a household, who was literally just a hired servant. So the very essence of feet washing as a practice was meant to represent the mindset of humility. So I wouldn't say I personally take a great offense in this, because what this is saying to me is it's kind of just a reminder in a modern context that we as Christ followers are meant to clothe ourselves in the same spirit of humility that Christ had. And I get some of the different points that you guys are putting in. Like, to me, I look at this, I don't read into it too much. I just look at it and I see it's an image of humility. It's an image of serving. And we're not just meant to serve other fellow believers. We're meant to serve people around us everywhere that we go. And then that testimony allows us to be a witness to people all around us. So, I mean, you could look at it and you could pick bones with it, but to me, it's like somebody is at least trying to present an image of Christ, or at least trying to present the gospel. If they're not one of us, what did Jesus say? If they're not against us, they're for us. So as long as it's not a direct contradiction of Scripture, as long as they're not preaching heretical teachings, at the end of the day, the way I see it, let them preach the gospel the way that they see fit, as long as it's not contradicting the Scripture. So that's what I see when I look at this.
Joe, what do you make of this right here? Because I'm not.
You got to pull the images up on a different tab so you can see them.
Well, okay, so it just says Jesus on the screen, but the U.S. at the end is a different color.
No, not you, Eric. I mean, like, we should, if you want to see it, we each have to look at it on a different tab, because you can't see it on the small screen that we have here.
Yeah, or blow it up.
I don't know if you can.
Okay, but like I'm saying, on this, all it is the word Jesus, and the U.S. is a different color.
Yeah,
us. I don't think it's referring to the United States of America. I think it means us.
I know. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, that's a genuine question that I have. I'm not saying trying to get you guys to respond in a certain way or another.
Well, actually, if you look at the top left, it also says us right there. I don't know. Like it's one of those things. Like, how much do you want to read into it? Is it worth your time reading into it? Like some people go on the internet, and I understand that's kind of what we do here, and we kind of talk about that stuff. But some people go on the internet and they feel like it's their responsibility to read into things and dig up controversies and dig up problems to talk about. And it's like I've never been that kind of person. If something comes to the surface, okay, I'll talk about it. But I don't ever go around digging for something. To me, I just look at that, and maybe my assumptions are too honest and sincere. To me, I just look at that and they're saying us as a communal body of human beings. We're meant to serve each other. And we as the church are meant to embody ourselves with the image of Christ so we can represent Christ to the world. So I think you can read into it. There,
I mean, I think
every person can have their own interpretation of what that means, unless they come out and say, here's what we mean by us.
But they definitely have something, an intent behind it, regardless.
I think it's intentionally vague.
Well,
because
everything is intentional whenever you're talking about marketing and
for the price that they're paying.
I work in communications. Everything's intentional.
Yeah.
So they spent millions on this ad. Every pixel was combed over.
Yeah, my concern would be like, okay, are they intentionally trying to help people think that we somehow become more important than Christ? I mean, I hope that that's not the case.
No, yeah. I think that's reading. I think that's just reading a lot into the situation. And honestly, like, I think, like, I'm willing to give them the benefit of a doubt of sincerity, because I think it's very common in like the world of critics. When you see something, you feel like you almost have an obligation, responsibility to read negative intent into something. This is actually something that happens a lot when people are on the opposite side of the aisle, or you have a distrust towards someone. It happens from the left to the right or the right to the left. Someone comes out with something and then you start reading intent into it. I see no indication that I should be reading any kind of intent to this. So I don't read negative intent, and I don't necessarily read positive intent in something like this. I'm just taking it at face value. It is pictures of people washing other people's feet. I don't see a reason to read a bunch of negative or positive.
What do you think the message is
into that? I think the message is humility and serving people and representing the love of Christ to the world.
Well, I agree. I agree with the statement that he gets us. I just hope that people understand it's more important that we're trying to get him.
I think that this marketing campaign has a history of taking very simple truths and then underlying them with incendiary social commentary. And so that's the first thing that I'll agree to what you said, that we might be finding it because of distrust. This is true, because I don't trust this organization. I don't want a bunch of people going off being Mormons, and I don't want this organization getting into people's heads because of the track record of advertising that they put out. That's what they always do. They'll take a simple truth that's supposed to be very milquetoast, mealy mouth, and then it has an underlying incendiary message to give it a boost in promotion. But then I'm gonna stick to my guns on this bastardization of the message. I was looking for the Didache. I have a bunch of them around here, and I can't get up and go get it. But on the part about giving, if for those who are familiar, Didache is kind of like a guidebook of ancient Christian practice and on how to worship. They would kind of take people through as they became new believers and teach them how to be Christians using this method. It's like a book, a method of training. And on the part about giving and alms, the very last thing that they say is let your alms sweat in your hands until you know who you're going to give it to. Meaning that you have something to give to somebody, but don't just give to other people, because there's grifters out there. And there is actual scripture warning us about people that are here to just get, when we took in people who wouldn't work, when a preacher was supposed to be put up because he was a good prophet, but then there was warnings about the type of people that were not supposed to put up because they were going back and forth with the Gnostics all the time. And so my gripe with this ad campaign is there is something that they're trying to say. It can be saying, we are the hands and feet of Jesus, us, or we are God ourselves, which is what Mormons kind of believe.
Well, hey,
So-
I wouldn't say they're just Mormons, so I would be careful to say that. I'm going to read specifically from their website who they are.
Okay, all right.
He Gets Us this is straight off their website. He Gets Us is a diverse group of Jesus followers with a wide variety of faith journeys and lived experiences. Our
Sounds
work
like New
represents
Age.
the input from Christians who believe that Jesus is the Son of God, as well as many others who, though not Christians, shared a deep admiration for the man that Jesus was, and we are deeply inspired and curious to explore his story.
So now we're delving into universal
crap.
Unitarianism. Unitarian.
This is the slippery slope that
Yeah.
conservative, traditional Christians are frustrated at with progressive Christianity and liberalism seeping in and just saying, you don't have to do that. They start with something like this, which again, I'm with you, Joe, on the ad. I think the ad's fine.
Well, I'll share this story with
If
you
it
guys.
leads anyone to the actual Jesus, then praise God.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like,
now that you say
I
that,
think
all
you
of
have to judge the product separately from the person who's creating it. I mean,
It's
as
hard to do it. I can't do it with the Kanye album right now. I can't separate the
yeah,
art from
and
the
I
artist. I ain't
understand.
gonna listen to that album.
Sometimes there are, like we do it all the time when we watch Hollywood movies. Most of the time when you watch a Hollywood movie, you don't actually really want to know who the Hollywood actor is or what they believe or what they stand for because you know it's going to ruin the experience for you. So to me, I look at this and you just have to judge the product separately from the person who's creating it. And this is happening all the time. I mean, a great example is Angel Studios. They're literally run by Mormons, but they're taking over Christian entertainment. And you just have to judge the product separately from the person who's creating it. And for some people, that's going to be a stumbling block. And if it's a stumbling block for you and you can't view the product without thinking or having in your mind the people who are creating it and the issues you have with them, that's your own prerogative. Some people are going to look at that. It's not necessarily going to be a stumbling block to them. They may look at that and genuinely be drawn towards a relationship with Jesus or toward drawn closer to a relationship with Jesus. So I'm 100% with the rest of you guys. I denounce this progressive Christian ideology. I denounce this that you can find Jesus in a multitude of different ways. You can pick and choose the way. I denounce all of that. But again, like truth is truth, regardless of who it comes from. Now, if they were coming in and they were actually presenting heretical photographs or heretical ads, okay. But truth is truth, even if it comes from people we don't agree with. So I kind of I put the product in this one camp, and then these other people, I'm with the rest of you guys. I'm not on board with them. I don't agree with like what their website is. People from all these different faith journeys, including some people who aren't Christians but have a deep admiration for Jesus. So I'm with you guys on that.
And we wouldn't have that issue if Christians would put their money where their mouth is.
Step up and stop letting other people dominate the marketplace. I'm 100% with you there.
And also, if we would stop using Jesus as a bludgeon in conversation, this is really bad with evangelicals, is that we say, the Lord said, God told me. And so you can never argue with them. You can never offer criticism or maybe because God told them. So it can't be wrong. And there are people that do that so much in Christian circles that when we see, I feel like that's the approach this is taking. Because I'm looking at the pictures as you were talking, and it's not all leaning one direction. It's every other picture. They lean back and forth. You have the traditional person serving, then you have the other non-traditional person serving, and they're going back and forth. And so when you take a step back and decide not to get angry, like, what is it actually saying? I think the reason it gets under our skin is because they're saying we represent Jesus. And we as you know, 520, we're looking at, but we represent Jesus too. We're Christians, and something about this ain't setting right. So either we're just wrong, or the Holy Spirit is telling us that something is not right with this. But because they're kind of projecting themselves as the voice of Jesus, and come on, guys, you just need to settle down. We're all in this together. It's like we're not. Because we can't be unified unless we're unified under the same purpose. And the army only works if it's going in one direction. It can't be all over the place.
I will say, Joe, I hope that people see this and maybe get interested in like what is feet washing about. Because I mean, obviously it's not a common thing at this point, but one of the experiences I have that I'll always remember probably the rest of my life is, you know, we've had Jeremiah Dirt on the channel before. and I went to a music festival where he was performing, got to meet with him, and he let me be a part of his performance. He had me and 3 other people, 2 of us on each side of the stage. While they were performing, we were pulling people up on stage and washing feet. And it was one of the most unique, amazing, like, concert experiences ever, obviously, for being a part of it. But I mean, I think even if I hadn't been on stage doing that, if I had just been in the crowd, it set this tone, and it was just a different, it wasn't just about hip hop. It wasn't just about enjoying music. You know what I'm saying? It was, hey, no, we really want the spirit to be here. So hopefully maybe someone can, at least take that away from this, if nothing else.
Well
Any of you
said.
guys have foot washing stories?
No, but do we
experiences?
want to hit this B+ question? I think he threw a
Yes.
good question here. Do you guys agree that Jesus did things to make a social point in his day?
I do not.
I
agree.
do.
No.
I think he made many social points.
Do I think they did? Yes. Do I think that was his purpose? No.
I think he went out of his way to go ahead.
That could be a loaded question because some people are going to insinuate, did he make social points in conjunction with the social points that are being made nowadays? Absolutely not. But he 100% came in and defied the cultural norm at the time. He 100% came in and defied society's norm at the time. So in the context of his day, 100% he did.
He was also very selective with it, right? Because there were times when, them talking about taxes, he's like, hey, render to Caesar what is Caesar's. Like, leave me alone on this. This is your guys' problem.
I feel like he went out of his way to correct the societal structure of things that were preventing people from knowing the truth and coming closer to God. And I think that's it, because when they were killing people in his hometown, he was like, y'all need to be focused about your souls and being right with God. It didn't seem like he was here to make any social points for the sake of our well-being or having a better life. So like Eric said, I think he was very selective about the things that he did address.
Yeah, I think it could be a slippery slope to. I get the argument, and I do think that there's a lot of conversation that could be had around this. Like we could probably do a whole nother show on that question. There is a danger, though, in reducing Jesus's words to a social point rather than a spiritual point. And the reason that I say that, and I could be wrong, but the reason I'm saying that right now, where my head is going, is by doing that, it places us as responsible for doing the right thing versus relying on Jesus for the sin that we are going to comprehend. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have responsibility, Romans 3. That doesn't mean that we have license to sin. But by reducing it to y'all need to figure out this social issue, it's saying y'all can figure this out on your own power. And when we do that, that's where we get really confused and saying, and that's when the finger pointing starts happening, because we're not relying on the power of Christ.
I think the simple explanation is you can't define and explain Jesus strictly through modern societal norms or modern definitions that society has for things. You can't, there are modern applications, but an attempt to just have this blanket modernization of Jesus Christ doesn't work. And so people are going to bring up all these social issues that are in society nowadays, abortion, the LGBT movement, and all that stuff. And they're going to kind of just try to put a square peg in a round hole, taking old things that Jesus said and just applying it in a non-wise manner to what society says nowadays. And you can't do that. So you kind of have to take what Jesus did in his time and apply it to that context. And then in some cases, the context does apply nowadays, but in other cases, you can't just pick and choose.
Well, and I think the thing that we see now is there are people who want to say, well, you tell me if Jesus was here right now, he wouldn't be out here like on the front line protesting, or he wouldn't have something to say about XYZ. Dude, the stuff, the XYZ that's happening now, there was stuff just like it happening then.
Because again, when they were killing everybody in his town, he was like,
why are we trying to add to what we see.
They were crucifying people on the streets, y'all.
Yeah, we see the example of what he was and what he was about and what was important. So why we try to change that, it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me. KD, I'm gonna let you wrap
I
us
haven't
up.
heard
Man.
you from Katie in a minute here, man.
No, it's amazing.
Nah, I just been chilling, man, listening to the conversation.
Well, wrap us up tonight, KD.
The one thing the scripture does tell us and admonishes us, and Jesus himself, beware of false Christ. Joe, the argument that you just made about social points actually kind of destroyed your argument in favor of the ad. We can make Jesus whoever we want him to be in these particular types of situations. And so we've got all of these different social things, social ills, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. He gets us. He really gets us. And again, one of the things that we do too often based on human nature is we bring Jesus, we try to bring God down to our level. And we try to make it make sense according to the finite instead of allowing God to pull us up, which is ultimately why we get saved in the first place. It's so that we can come up and get restored to the original point and place that we were in relationship before sin invaded our space. My issue with the ad is the fact that what you can see isn't all that there is to be seen. And so, again,
Yes.
we have to be more discerning. It's not about looking for dirt. The fact that the company has that very, very, very vague and veiled statement on their website just really kind of is congruent to the issue that's in front of us that we're seeing. You're seeing what they want you to see, but you're not seeing actually what it is that they're pushing and promoting. They're promoting a Jesus who is just like us. Now, Hebrews says we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the infirmities of our, he was all points tempted as we were, but yet without sin. We get that. But, there was never an instance where Jesus compromised who he was in order to go out of his way to do this. We've made the argument repeatedly. Jesus ate with sinners. He sat with sinners, but Jesus never sinned. He never okayed their behavior or their activity or their lifestyle or their ideologies. Jesus never, he called them out. He called out Pharisees. He called out Sadducees. He did these things. When we talk about society norms, that's how things were structured at that particular point in time. Jesus rocked the boat. He came against those things. Yes, foot washing is one of the ultimate acts of humility. Foot washing is a lost art. Foot washing is something that, oh my goodness, you see it, it shocks the sensibilities. And then we put these pictures behind it and we depict these settings and these scenarios. And we say, guys, this is what Jesus would have us do. But what Jesus are you talking about? Because you're not talking about the Jesus who, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I'm the Jesus whose truth causes individuals to pick a side. There is
It
no
divides families.
ambiguity.
If you don't
have
hate
to.
your mother and father,
Your enemies are going to be
Yeah.
those of your own household. Why? Because I'm going to make sure if you live for me, there is a stance and a choice that you have to make. And that is going to ultimately, automatically be in opposition to what society says is right, to what people want to do, what's comfortable, what makes sense, common sense, all of those things. So when we look at an ad like this and we look at the dinner party and all of these other ads that they've put out and posted on the surface, it may make sense and it may seem harmless. But at the end of the day, if I'm pointing you to a Jesus who does not exist, then I'm failing. And again, I've got an agenda. You guys, everybody here has seen the Book of Eli, right?
great movie.
Amazing movie,
Hughes
right?
brothers
That
killed
bridge
that movie.
scene, though.
Smashed that movie, and I think it is underrated. I'm pretty sure probably because of the language and stuff like that. Like whenever I watch it edited. However, the point that I'm making is this. Gary Oldman, who is the guy who was over the town, who was searching for the Bible. Why did he want it? Because he thought that it would be a tool to use to get the people to conform to what it is that he ultimately wanted to do, which was lord over them. He didn't want to give them Jesus for the sake of them having Jesus and getting saved. He wanted to use Jesus for his own agenda. Beware a false Christ. Because
Yep.
people are going to say, there's Jesus, here's Jesus, and Jesus is not there.
Yep.
And so when we look at these types of ads and we see this kind of stuff, oh, look, Jesus on the TV, Jesus in the Super Bowl. The saints, unassuming and undiscerning, are okay with that. Oh, man, they talking about Jesus in prime time. What Jesus are you talking about? The Jesus who hasn't chosen to condemn evil or condemn sin. Yeah, Jesus loves us. But
It's
he
like
loves us
you
enough to
can't
pull us
really
out of
talk
sin.
about Jesus without talking about repentance. Like it's
You can't do it.
well, if you do, you put out this ad.
Exactly. You've
Yeah.
made somebody else who's comfortable and conformable, but not somebody who's holy, not somebody who should be held in reverence, not being afraid of him, but in ultimate respect and adoration of him. We have to be careful. It should not just be enough for us to be cool with the fact that Jesus gets mentioned in prime time. What Jesus are we pointing people to? That's all I got.
Yeah, man.
Man, you
Love
just
it.
hit so many things that I needed to hear, and you don't even know the context. I'm gonna have to tell it to you later.
Yeah, man. Fellas, it's been fun. Always good to
That
be
was a
here.
fun
Shout
episode.
out to everyone that's been hanging out with us tonight in the chat. We appreciate you guys. Love that you're tuning in. Make sure you plan to be back here next week. We'll have a brand new show. And I can kind of tease it at this point, we are supposed to have a special guest joining us, Mr. Spoken Worth. He is going to hop in and chat with us next week. So make sure you
Oh,
tune in
that's
for that,
fire.
man. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, like, share, all the things, and join our newsletter on Substack, 520club.com/Substack. We got some stuff coming out to you guys this week in a few days, so make sure you are tuned in for that. But Swiss, good having you back, man. Hopefully see you again next week.
Yep.
Fingers
Planning
crossed.
on it. Planning on it.
Yeah, man. Joe Fay, you're just fitting right in, man. You're like one of the family now.
Joe is family.
Let's
man.
go. I feel at home with you guys.
That's
Bam.
good. Maybe you'll be
Yeah,
comfortable
man.
enough to take that hat off next time. Oh, there it is. Look at him. Oh man, Fast and Furious.
Hey, Joe, was that thumbnail AI or did you really stick your head in that much candy and take that photo?
It's a combination of Photoshop and practical effects.
That was
Yeah.
a really catchy.
Right around my head was actual candy, and then I just Photoshopped the rest in.
Okay. That was
Wow.
that was a really good thumbnail.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. He does high quality work, y'all. If you ain't
Yeah,
on,
man.
if you ain't checking
Go
out
check
Joe
it out.
Face channel, you missing out.
Hey,
Joe
take it from zero. He would never lie, man.
I would not lie about that. That's not worth lying about.
Joe lived for
I'll-
6 days on candy and candy type products.
But on the 7th day,
No. You didn't make it to the 7th day.
no, I was just trying to make a
Sixth
joke
day.
somehow. Bro, how good did you know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna say it on the show. Wait till backstage.
But hey, we're gonna get out of here, man. So for Zero for Hire, KD the Vessel, this is Eric Boston. Let's go.